All right, everyone, we're going to be doing another look into the game here. So, I asked on stream basically what are some of the concerns that we had going forward, trying to figure out what were some of the biggest bugs that were affecting the game right now. So, what happened is it spiraled kind of into bugs slash issues. So, let's go over them, kind of address some of these as we move into a new patch. We're discovering a few more, and it looks like some of these may have been resolved as a new patch has come out. So the first bug is basically there's been a bunch of crashes related to Death Proof. Now this is with Black Bolt specifically, sometimes the interaction with Barrier. This being a legendary character, it's still being reported intermittently. I'm not sure if it's been resolved. I haven't seen the issue except for one off Barrier interaction with Black Order, where there was about 3 or 4 seconds where just the Barrier interaction was clearly at fault there. Again, I'm not sure that it's a major issue. It may be intermittent. Just watch for it as going forward. The problem we have is when legendary characters come out and they require such a significant investment of resources and time, we'd hope they were relatively bug free. Next thing is going to be there's some issues here. We've identified that some of the focus and resist percentages were flat or percentages, and if you look right now, one of the bigger issues right here is this was identified a while ago, and Phoenix Force is not a 50,000%. This is a flat 50,000. So if you have interactions where you're having trouble clearing off of, let's say, a Juggernaut or specifically a G14 Colossus, this is why. This in the JSON files is still coded as 50,000. Currently occurs for JJ, Mr. Fantastic, Storm. We're a little concerned about the Venom interaction, the symbiotes, and possibly Korath. These need to be checked versus what's on the actual screen here. Okay, versus what's in the JSON files. It's flat. Okay, that's a big difference. So take a look. These are going to be hard coded differently than what they're appearing on over here. That's a big deal, especially when you're trying to do certain things that are not happening. The next thing is basically, and I haven't seen it happen since this most recent patch, but there's still an issue where persistent buffs after expiration on UI. I had it going into DD3 recently, but I think after the patch, it seemed to be more of a just yeah, it was more of a timing issue. I don't think that I actually saw any of these happening. And most recently with war fights, usually it happens with Coulson. I didn't see any reports of it, so it may have gotten fixed. But sometimes the UI doesn't update after expiration, so we're going to watch for that going forward. That does change the impact, especially when you're using certain counters against certain teams. Another big issue a lot of folks are having is war matchmaking. So this has become an issue because it affects 24 people who are working together towards a common goal. And what happens is currently you can have large discrepancies and disparities between power level when you're facing off in wars. These are not easy to overcome. The largest punch ups I think I've ever been a part of are 18 million, and these take a wide degree of coordination, planning, and some dumb luck. That being said, it needs to be looked at because there is a very punishing factor when you are going up against an opponent when the war is unwinnable. And this is something that has to be considered. The war frustrations are real. I do appreciate that during this period of time, Fox Next has actually made it so that the loss rewards are not as not as skewed as they were previously, but that is something that needs to be addressed soon. This is a problem that's going forward. So this is one thing I don't like to talk about because it's basically like wishing them into existence, right? And we talk about the R2B2s on my channel, Blitzbots, right? It is becoming an issue for folks, either whether or not it is an actual issue or they perceive it as an issue. The fact that they exist at all and they appear widely unaddressed is frustrating for the community. The reason is some of the folks who Blitz is their favorite part of the game, the folks who actually enjoy this mode are frustrated by their results because they feel like some folks are doing things that are just beyond the scope of their roster. Without pointing any fingers, We have seen some of that. I think that recent milestone where it was recording the amount of points earned from, blitzes in arena. Well, that was a reasonable suggestion that something might have been afoot. Thank you, Fox Next, for at least looking into that, if that was your intent. But more importantly, this is detrimental, and the silence is not good. We need to hear something about that. So this is an intermittent bug. I haven't been able to reproduce it. I've only heard it happening. I haven't heard it happen this patch, but there is an issue where occasionally your war defense is not locked in war and you're able to use them on offense. Now, this is a big deal if suddenly a team is able to use twice. That is a competitive advantage that doesn't bode well for the game. We're still having a little bit. It seems like it was a little bit less of an issue this patch. There's definitely been a lockup when a war room defeat happens. I think it was, and again, I'm playing on BlueStacks. I notice it more when I'm playing on my phone or other devices. There's just extreme slowdown when the server spools that information. And for a lot of people, that's just frustrating. They don't know if their game's crashing. A lot of people quit out in a fight because, depending on their device, it might take longer to react to. That's something that needs to be looked at. So this is happening recently. This is definitely happening in the current patch. So when units are reviving or certain actions are taking place, and it may be a result of low graphics mode. A lot of people are reporting this is happening in low graphics mode, but we'll have to take a look at it. So some people are saying it's happening in all graphic settings. Basically, when a unit is revived, they are no longer selectable as a target. This is a drastic effect with units like Ultron. So something to take a look at. Now, this is a unique issue. This is something that people were talking about. There's a lot of frustration with Arena. And some people were saying that it isn't something that needs to be addressed, but it's something that should be looked at, is the way the mechanic works. There is the ability to invite collusion where people in an Arena shard can work together to earn ranking. And also there's a thing called slingshots, which is basically the way the system works is when you engage a target, your defense is vulnerable. Even though you win, the person behind you, whether they beat you before or after, will determine their position. So if you win and you beat number 3 and the person behind you is number 9 attacking your defense and they beat you after you win, you wind up number 9, they wind up number 3. So kind of a weird situation. It can be frustrating, especially because this is a mode that you can use cores to progress in. So if you're spending your in-game currency and then the result isn't predictable and it isn't something that you can set up, especially in this current age where there really isn't a steadfast Arena defense. You kind of have to go with what works best and hope for the best. Even Black Order are a little underwhelming in that category. So this was an issue that came up as number 10, and it's been reported among people who did the Miles Morales blitz slightly before Symbiote Spider-Man was released. It looks like several players were given Symbiote Spider-Man shards instead of Miles shards during that blitz right before that. Something I was unaware of. I saw a couple of screenshots, not sure how legitimate they are, but based on where their progression was and their reported, spending strategy on the video game, it seemed like it was very likely as their progress wouldn't have made sense otherwise. So there actually was a distribution of Symbiote Spider-Man shards as the reward instead of Miles shards, depending on where you progressed in that blitz. So that is a big deal. Him being a milestone, giving a bunch of people these essentially for free or in error has impacted the way that was. And that's been months in the working. A lot of these other things looks like they were fixed. We talked about, I got to give Fox Next a lot of credit. There were a lot of the bugs that were addressed going forward. I just think these are quality because all of these can be detrimental to your gameplay. More importantly, they do affect people who are spending on the game. If you're spending cores, spending energy, or you're getting frustrated because certain interactions aren't happening the way you expect, this is, causing a wide degree of frustration. So, from that regard, I think it's very important that we get ahead of this, kind of show the Fox Next where we as a community evaluate it. I'd like your feedback. Remember, I'm Reminex. I stream every day on Twitch at 5 p.m. Eastern. You guys can catch me a late night stream at My Reset, which is 12 a.m. Eastern, where I go through some Reset gameplay and show you my daily routine at Reset. Thank you very much, guys. Check you later. Go X-Force.